Radio. It's just after 9 o'clock, and I have a guest in studio, Sharon Bayus with Innovative Alternatives, and we're going to get into some really cool things that are coming up. If you have any questions, feel free to ask, share this out. I'm going to kick this on the FM. Here we go. Good morning. This is KHEA 99.5 FM. It's Kickstart. My name is Gardy. I have a guest in studio. I'm going to let her introduce herself and then share the organization that she's with today.
Good morning, Gardy. Thanks for having me. I'm Sharon Bayus, and I'm the founder, president, and CEO of Innovative Alternatives, Inc. And we've been in the Clear Lake area for 32 years. And our mission statement is finding solutions to life's most difficult people problems through mediation, counseling, and training. We're a nonprofit agency, and got an exciting event coming up on Monday.
Okay, before we get into the event, so it's on Monday, and we're going to let people know how they can go have fun. It's a golf tournament. It's a lot of cool stuff. So, finding the solutions to people's problems, to people problems. It seems like there's new problems and new situations and new stresses that are added all the time. What does that mean for you guys?
So our major services are mediation. We do a lot of family reconciliation mediation. If you've got one person in marriage that is just feeling discouraged, not sure they can make it anymore, not sure they want to stay in the marriage, one of the best ways to approach trying to see if the relationship is reconcilable is to go to mediation. A lot of people think mediation is only for divorce. It's really more suited to reconciling and dealing with crises and making plans, actual hardcore plans on paper for who does what, when, where, and how to save that relationship. And so, people come in, when we start mediation, we get them to talk about what brought them together. They talk about the characteristics they love and appreciate in each other. We make lists on that. That's in their agreement. And so a lot of times they're reminded of why they got together when they haven't given each other a compliment in years. And then what have they accomplished together? What are they proud of? What is the dynamic of their relationship? What great things have come, the positive things that have come from their relationship. We raised good kids. We agreed on parenting. We shared the same faith. Those kind of things. And then, and those two lists, really, they don't take too long. It's about 10 minutes to get that. And remind people, what's our foundation here? What do we have to build on? And then it also tells us as mediators, is this a skill problem or a will problem? Because people are in conflict for those two reasons. Either they lack the skills to communicate and resolve conflict, or there's so much unforgiveness for past hurts they haven't dealt with. A lot of avoiding personalities. People like to avoid conflict. They just let things ride. They don't clean those closets out, and pretty soon the smallest little thing is causing explosions all the time. And so we find out, is it a will problem? Are they unforgiving? And we've got a structured forgiveness process they can go through, because a lot of us try to do this Band-Aid forgiveness, like, sorry, Gardy, I'm sorry I dissed you in the staff meeting yesterday. I'm having a bad day. Well, I haven't apologized or asked you to forgive me. I've just said, sorry for you, I'm having a bad day. That's all I've said. And so we talk about the behavior, not the consequences of that behavior.
And unlucky for you, I'm having a bad day again tomorrow. And
okay.
The littlest thing's going to make me boil up again, right?
Yeah, exactly. But if I say, Gardy, I'm sorry that I embarrassed you in staff meeting, I'm sure that's going to make you reluctant to speak up again, give your ideas, that kind of thing. Then, will you forgive me for that? Then I'm doing more complete forgiveness. I am really talking about all the consequences I caused, the impact I caused for you. And so we take couples through that if they want to. That's optional. We don't force anybody to do anything, but it is an optional phase. And we do offer that service in faith-based format. But the last list they make is what needs to change about our relationship for this to be the most fulfilling relationship we can have. And that's from either of your points of view. You don't have to agree on the issues. And then once we get the list, we have them look at it and say, is there anything you wouldn't negotiate to try to improve? Even if you don't have that problem. If they say, no, I'm not going to work on that, they're done. They don't waste their time going in circles in counseling forever, weeks on end, and feeling like they're getting nowhere. But if they're willing to negotiate on each one of those things, we take it to solutions and get it on paper.
What are some signs that maybe mediation, counseling could be beneficial. Because sometimes it just seems like, man, I don't want to do counseling. Or
Right.
you mentioned both people have to be willing. What are some signs for people to look for to know, hey, it could work for me?
Well, good faith is the main thing we look for, because if you can't negotiate with yourself. That's been proven throughout years. You just can't make somebody do something they don't want to do. So if we have one person who wants to reconcile, another person who wants to divorce, we can talk to both of them about the optional phase to reconcile. But if one of them is already emotionally divorced, they're going to waste their time. Now, there are some benefits to going through that reconciliation phase to see if they can get some of the problems like communication or things that have triggered them working well if they're going to divorce, because you never divorce as parents. And you're still going to have those problems when you're trying to get along to raise your kids. So it's sometimes worth it to do it then, even if they think there's no hope for the marriage. And it cuts down on the sabotage of the other person. We're all rebellious. Even Paul says, I don't do the things I want to do.
Yeah.
And the things I don't want to do, those are the things I do. And so if we're being made to get divorced when we don't want to get divorced, what do? We try to undermine and sabotage and make it as difficult as possible. So going through that phase, if one person has gotten to the place where they don't want the marriage anymore and the other person is not there yet, it actually lets that person feel like, well, I've had my say, I've given all my ideas to try to save things, and, yeah, I can see you're just not there anymore, and maybe come to the place where they can grieve it, not agree with it, but grieve it and go on. And so you have a little bit less sabotage. The signals, the other signals are just high conflict, things setting you off at home. Mediation works for the workplace too. We do it for the workplace. The example I gave you is the workplace. Mm-hmm. And those are relationships that work just like family relationships. We're with those people a lot.
Yeah. Would it be like I guess it could be for, if it's just me and a coworker that need that mediation, or even if it's a group, it's like a group of 5 that work close together.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The largest mediation I've done is 64 people on 4 different shifts in a large round-the-clock, setting where they substituted people one shift to another, and then this negativity had gone on for 10 years. They had run off 6 to 8 directors brought in to fix this place, and the small group of employees had so much informal power they could get rid of anybody they wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a state-funded agency, so it takes an act of God to fire somebody, no matter what they do. And the only option this company had was to try to bring in a mediator. And so we couldn't, no one trusted some of these people. So what we did is we built team norms for creating a positive work culture. And so they set the standards, what they wanted their work culture to be like, and what they were going to do about it if somebody broke those norms. And they were able, as peers, to shut those folks down, and they had no trouble. The woman that ran that department was brand new and thought she would be scapegoated as the problem, as the leader, and we'd be high-priced consultants come in, blame her for everything, make all the money, and go away. She'd lose her job. So she was pretty resistant to us coming in, and it turns out that department turned around so dramatically that she is sought after by the same type of industry. She's sought after all over Texas because of the turnaround in the department. And all she says, that management's so easy. I just say, have you followed the norms? If I don't want to hear about it. If you haven't gone to your peer to resolve this first, then I can't hear about it. Go there. If that doesn't work, I'll get you an informal mediator. If that doesn't work, then I hear about it. Then I decide between the two, y'all.
Yeah.
So it makes managers' lives a whole lot easier, too.
Okay, here's another question that came in. This is from Santa Fe's home with Councilman Fidencio Leja of Santa Fe. He asked, what about sibling dynamics?
Absolutely. We've done mediation with kids as young as 5 years old in family mediation, and they are wise beyond their years in giving input to how the family can resolve things. They can do it between peers. They can do it with parents and the whole family. present. Some of these little kids can give some really wise observations to their parents about who's doing what and how and what they need to stop, and that they're not being good examples for us and that kind of things.
Right.
And we've done generational disputes between adult siblings who haven't spoken to each other for decades, and then all of a sudden a parent is sick and they have to work together to take care of that parent, or generational disputes between the parent and the adult children. You name it, any people. And good morning, Councilman Aleha. I think he's golfing with us, actually. I think
Awesome.
I saw his name coming through. Thank you. So anyway, anywhere there are people that just want to find a solution, that's all we look for in our clients, which is good faith. You just want to find a solution. You don't even have to be hopeful. You can find one. Just that, I'd really like to get along with you better. That's the attitude we look for. And then if we have that element, this process works 100% of the time. If we have that element in both people, if you have one or both who can't or won't because of unforgiveness work together, it'll work 0% of the time. So the stats are pretty clear on that.
Yeah. So whenever you're finding a solution, is there multiple solutions presented, and then kind of deciding, hey, it's probably give and take?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so we do brainstorming in our final solution after the phase, after they talk through what the problems are, what the impact is to each of them of that problem. Then we have them brainstorm every idea they can think of, and we tell them, don't say, I won't do that, or we tried that before, or whatever. We've all been in meetings where a boss says, give us ideas, and then they shoot them down, and we don't want to give another idea. So,
and then it's their idea.
Right. So we tell them, don't comment. We're just making a list. You might have 21 ideas on here, but only 7 both of you feel are fair and balanced. They're concrete and specific, so you know who does what, when, where, and how. And then they are realistic and feasible. If they cost money, do we have the money to do it? If they cost time, do we have the time to do it? We that's a mediator's job, to check out the feasibility of their agreements, because kids, talking about working between siblings, little kids will say, well, we'll just won't fight anymore. Well, that's not real realistic. What's going to keep you from fighting? This is what you guys said to each other in this last conflict. So which things do you need not to say anymore, or do anymore, and that kind of thing? And what do you need to do different? What behaviors will you do? So yeah, we prompt all of these ideas for brainstorming, and then we go through and evaluate those ideas. The evaluation's pretty clear. I listed our criteria as mediators: fair and balanced, realistic and specific, and then fair and balanced, concrete and specific, I think, and realistic and feasible. Yeah, 6 of them. For the client, it's a good agreement if it meets our need and it keeps us from having that conflict again. Mm-hmm. So it's pretty clear, and that's how we measure, do we have a good agreement at the end.
And you've been working and founded Innovative Alternatives, I think, since 1989, right?
Yes, sir.
And so you've seen a lot of different people, a lot of different relationships and dynamics. Is there, and I understand every situation would be unique, but sometimes they'll mirror each other. I assume it's well, I've seen this before. And that kind of helps you, I guess, in your expertise, kind of see where this is going or where an option for solutions could be or something.
Well, our background at Innovative Alternatives is mental health, and so we approach mediation with that view as well, and we developed a very special process called family intervention mediation, because once in a while, some of the patterns that you're talking about that we see result from an undiagnosed mental health issue. And so high conflict, where you have one person that is pretty controlling in the relationship and everything is my way or the highway, and the dishes have to be in the dishwasher a certain way, and the shoes have to be off when they hit the door, or whatever. The rules are unbending. That is called OCPD. It's obsessive compulsive personality disorder. People in the lay area call it OCD. But it's really OCPD. If you're going to have a personality disorder, that's the one you want, because it makes you very successful in your career and academics, but it drives people around you and your family absolutely nuts. And the conflict is high. The person's unbending. They feel unforgiving to other people, to their children, to their spouses. And it's very discouraging for the people around them. They live also with very high anxiety in their lives. And so when we have somebody come in for mediation and we hear some of these symptoms, we can recommend family intervention. And all that means is, we tell both people in the couple, if we see an undiagnosed mental health issue in you, that would prevent you from keeping your agreement. That would be unethical for us to let you make that agreement knowing you couldn't keep it, which is an advantage over attorney mediators because they don't recognize these things. They just, in fact, that's why they do caucus mediation most of the time. They put people in different rooms and run back and forth like a used car salesman. We don't do that.
Yeah, right.
We keep you in the same room. If we don't get you to an agreement that allows you to stay in the same room, you're not going to keep that agreement later. So anyway. So if we see that, then we recommend intervention mediation, which means we're going to have co-mediators, and both of us are probably going to be mental health mediators. But we say up front, you're giving us permission if we see these symptoms for one of us to step into a clinical role and make that diagnosis. And then that just is one of the problems you solve, like every other problem, like communication or anything. You decide what you want to do about it. We'll tell you the common treatments, whatever. You decide which one you want to do, but it goes on the agreement, just one other problem to solve. And there's no blame. Mediators are not there to judge or to suggest or coerce people to do anything. We're there just to help take you through this process that leads people to their own. Everybody knows what they should be doing. They just don't know how to do it.
Yes.
Quite honestly, everybody does.
It's like diet, exercise, and just like anything. Yeah, you know what you're supposed to be doing, but are you doing it?
Exactly.
Sometimes, maybe.
No,
right?
never. I never do that one. It's easier to reconcile a marriage than for me to get myself to exercise and eat right.
Okay, so during mediation, I know I don't like being told, hey, the issue is you. Right. You have this going on. You need to work on this. You feel like it's not all my fault. It's not all my fault. It's my fault. Is it my fault? What's the best way for someone to deal with that, to realize, hey, I'm the problem. I may be a big part of the problem, or I can work on this in my personality disorder. So
the way in our screening meeting, when they give us that permission, first of all, they always give us permission to make the diagnosis because they think we're going to diagnose their spouse, not them.
Yeah.
So they are always, wink, wink. Sure, you can. Yeah, you can diagnose me. But, and often, I always tell counselors, be careful of this when you're doing individual counseling, because you can be talking to somebody and think, oh, you poor thing, you're married to somebody with a personality disorder, but often that person is projecting what they do on the other person. And so you can't always tell one person until you get them together and you see that dynamic. And so when we see those things, we just say, we kind of stop the mediation and say, we told you if we saw symptoms of, or heard about symptoms of a diagnosis, that we would stop and let y'all know. Are you still willing to hear that? So we get their permission every step, Gardy. They don't get like ambushed or anything. Oh yeah. And do you want to hear it privately? I'm not going to say who it is yet. Do you want to hear it privately first and then decide if you want your spouse to know? Well, if we're trying to reconcile, we need to know what we're dealing with. Oh, yeah, we'll hear it. So they make these choices. That's how we get over the resistance and the rebellion, is that we go with the resistance and we let them make choices. I was telling a gentleman one time, we don't coerce, suggest, or, make you do anything. He goes, well, why am I paying you anything? He said, we come in here. And I said, well, let me tell you this. Let me ask you a question. I said, in fact, you've only been here 15 minutes. And I said, I already know what your problems are, and I'll tell you what to do to fix them. Will you go home and do them just because I tell you to? And he said, excuse me, I'll just say, heck no.
Yeah.
You don't know me from Adam. And I said, bingo, that's why. You have to decide you want to buy into this and you want to do it, or it's not going to happen. I mean, we even struggle with conflict in ourselves. I use mediation skills with somebody in individual therapy because they're having arguments with themselves a lot about different things. So,
I guess knowing all this information, do you ever almost like diagnose yourself or like have that
absolutely.
internal thing where it's like, this is what I'm dealing with, how can I treat it? Like treat yourself, or do you go and have counseling sessions with other individuals as well?
Every good counselor or mediator should deal with their own issues to help other people. And it's, for me, I mean, when I started this agency, it was like God bombarded me with conflict from strangers I didn't even know. Like, if I'm going to teach this, I better be practicing it. And refining my own skills and stuff like that, and so we need to use the skills. We need to be able to see things in ourselves. I had someone on my staff the other day. I said, what kept you from asking for help in this issue, letting it get this bigger? I've always had trouble asking for help. Well, you need to get over that. If you're going to be helping other people deal with those very issues, you need to do your own work and get some insight.
And I could see that, because it's like, well, I'm supposed to be the expert, I'm supposed to be helping other people. Why am I the one asking for help as well, or dealing with my own things?
No, that's a responsible therapist that deals with their own things, because I'll tell you, the things I've seen that are unethical over the years in counselors have been well-intentioned mistakes. Like, I know I'm not supposed to have a dual relationship, but I'll just give my business to this client, or I'll, barter for plumbing services so they don't have to pay so much money, and then it just clouds the whole relationship, and it can be emotionally damaging, and so people often have really good intentions, and we always transform ourselves into the best vision of ourselves we can have, and never see that when we're hurting someone very readily. But every graduate student that goes and gets a counseling degree, we're diagnosing everybody we see all the time. But then you realize, what makes something diagnosable in the psychology field is does it interfere with your functioning or your academic and career success? We all have traits of things, and like I get a little OCPD about writing and stuff like that. I don't think schools don't teach people to write. It just drives me insane. Even journalists nowadays use double negatives and all this kind of stuff. Makes me crazy. But that's my area, but that doesn't help, It doesn't hurt my career, my relationships, or whatever. Unless somebody's really sensitive about their writing, and it might hurt their feelings a little bit. But I tell people that on interview. I say, so you learn to manage things. So you can have traits of things that don't hurt those three areas, and you're not diagnosable. But if they start getting into the dysfunction area, then sometimes medication helps, sometimes talk therapy. That OCPD I talked about, very treatable with medication. And then they just, do a few sessions of therapy to learn different patterns of behavior and managing the anxiety of not controlling absolutely everything in the world, and where they can relax a little bit, and they're good, and it's very treatable. So then that's the most common thing that causes, I think, domestic violence as well, because the intensity and the anger escalates over time, that people just are not doing things my way.
What does OCPD stand for one more time?
Obsessive compulsive personality disorder.
And so if someone was to get treatment, and you said a part of that would potentially be medication, what would they be prescribed, and how would that alter?
Well, I'm not a psychiatrist, but I commonly see clients be placed on things like what's called venlafaxine or Effexor, Zoloft, things like that treat both the anxiety and the depressive. It's a chemical. It's chemical imbalance in your body causing so much anxiety, and then the coping strategy is try to control everything so I don't have the anxiety. And so dealing with that anxiety symptom medication wise on something that keeps you more even keeled daily, it doesn't change your personality, doesn't make you groggy. It's not an anxiety medication like Klonopin or Xanax that you can get addicted to, although you do need to taper on it and taper off of it. You don't just jump off, think I'm well. That's one of the things we struggle with in our field, is that people get on medication, they feel better, and they think they don't need it anymore, and it's the medication that's helping them to feel better.
Yeah.
And then they get off, and then it causes more problems.
So from things that I've heard, and all the added stresses of last year and this year, and just uncertainty, kids in school, and getting sick. Is it the flu? Is it whatever? Right? Is it COVID? That just is another. Oh yeah. Another, I guess, layer of what people cannot control. Whenever sometimes they're trying to cope and trying to control what they can.
There are so many things that are distressing people right now, and you mentioned the COVID, the isolation, or the anxiety of being out among people. That's big. We've gone through, all these floods, the freezes, the property losses. We've had Afghanistan, which for veterans is just, it's distressing for all of us to see that we left Americans behind. They're still there. We don't know what's going on. I had trouble sleeping for a week over that myself, because having our victim assistance program, I know the child abuse that's occurring there, and it just is it's traumatic to me, because my mind is seeing things that are causing me trauma, whether they're not exact real cases, but I know they're happening. The one time they showed the woman being beaten in the street, all those things we see on TV are traumatizing all of us and causing much more anxiety and stress and conflict in our families. That's where we take it out most of the time, is in our families. Marriages are being lost now because of the trauma that's going on all around us that we can't control, and we're acting it out there. So when we see those symptoms, that's when we need to seek help. And some people want to seek that individually first and see if they can't get those coping strategies, and then the conflict diminishes. Or is it a relational issue that's been there for a long time, and it's just being made a whole lot worse by all these external stressors that we're seeing? But veterans, we lose 20 to 22 veterans a day to suicide, and so many of them have relationships with people that are left there that they're just they're spending their whole life savings. They're doing everything to try to go and do personal missions there to save people. It's just they're going through a lot emotionally now, and if you know a veteran, you need to reach out to them and check on them periodically and just say, hey, I'm worried about you. I'm praying for you. I want you to know I'm here, and can't take away some of the stuff you feel, but I can walk with you. I can walk through it with you, and be an ear and try to understand. If I don't understand, I can at least give you a hug, or whatever you need at the time. Hang out, go bowling, whatever you can do to just be with those people that are struggling with this stuff.
So a couple days ago, social media, Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, they went down for, I think, like 5 or 6 hours. And so life was a little bit different for a lot of people who were on social media a lot. I noticed.
I didn't even notice.
See, yeah.
News to me.
Yeah, I was checking, Facebook to see, hey, KHEA, like, what did the show do this day? Whatever, just scrolling. And there was out of habit. And some people, it was probably like an addiction or a habit or whatever. Like, let me check my Instagram or whatever. How does social media play into, I guess, these relationships and just through the stressors? And is there anything that you can share about that?
Well, we all lose our filter a little bit on social media. We say things on social media because we're behind a phone and, that we wouldn't say, or we want to get attention to the comments, that we want to make. And people are so divided politically right now, and that honestly, family relationships are being lost, friendships are being lost, marriages, people are losing their jobs over comments they may make on social media. I think, and the whole vax, non-vax, mask, no mask, the stuff that it's just, we are inundated with conflict and stressor and anxiety. And for people who are on, say, more on the right, they're seeing the nation dissolve before their eyes, the nation and the standards that they hold dear, our identity as a nation. The people, on the left pushing a lot of the different, more toward, the more socialist equality type things in the schools and in the regulations in the community and everything. They feel like it's been a bad place all along, and they've been traumatized by it all along. So there's no happy place for anybody, right? Yeah. I mean, it's a sad reality that we're living in with the changes going on and how we're all experiencing them. In fact, we've had to prepare and talk a lot in our clinical meetings among our staff about, how to help people if we have not had their perspective. If you're someone who leans right and you have someone who's very liberal coming in and maybe very upset about like during the protests and what happened to George Floyd, and that's been their experience, that minorities are mistreated, and yet you're a white middle class therapist. How do you help that person? You haven't had that experience. How do you help that person, or do you refer them? And our agency always tries to do anytime we can, cultural match with language. We offer Spanish speaking, faith-based service. We try to do cultural match because all the research says that clients are most successful based on the match, the click they have between themselves and the therapist, that engagement that they feel, and that person can relate to them. So we try to do that from the beginning, but sometimes, that therapist you need might not be on your insurance that you want to use or something, and so we can't. So we've got to prepare everybody to deal with everything. And we share that among ourselves and challenge each other with those things when we're in our clinical meetings so we can help. Okay.
I'm talking to Sharon Bayus with Innovative Alternatives, and there's an event that's coming up, and we're going to get to that. I said that 30 plus minutes ago, and we are going to get to that. So somebody hasn't been to y'all's facility. Can you list, I guess, where you're located, and then go exactly what y'all offer, and then we can go talk about that tournament coming up.
So we have had an office in the Clear Lake area for 32 years. We're about a mile from the Johnson Space Center we're at 1335 Regents Park Drive. If you're familiar with that area, there are 3 black glass buildings right together, and we're in the center one, and we have about half of the second floor. Then we also have the Santa Fe Resiliency Center, which is adjacent to Santa Fe Seafood. We share a wall with them, and that's on 1764, 4233 1764 in Suite C. And we have had that facility for just about a year now. We did our grand opening in November. Our services are individual counseling, group and family counseling, as well as family mediation, workplace mediation. We do elder care and guardianship mediation. So if someone's ill in your family, you got to figure out as a family how you're gonna manage that and not stress out the one adult sibling that lives in town. That's a very important plan. Then we also do a lot of training in the areas of mental health. We can come to your organization, especially if you were impacted by the mass violence in Santa Fe. If you have employees that were impacted by that, trauma will impact all relationships over time. That's the biggest long-term symptom people are left with, is anxiety and conflict in their relationships. We can come to your organization. We can do free presentation on how trauma impacts the individual, the family, and the workplace. Or we can do any one of those if you just want to know how it affects the workplace. So we can go into churches, anything. We do a lot of training in building better relationships, teaching communication and conflict resolution skills, so you can have that for the family, for the workplace, for the church, and then just a variety of others. We also do traditionally we've done violence prevention programs for schools, bully proofing, peer mediation, starting those programs in schools. So that's kind of the overview.
Okay, that's a lot of stuff.
A lot of innovation.
Yeah, it is. It's in the name. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
And I guess y'all always have to be willing to add new things or explore new ways to do something, or
right.
It just makes sense.
Yes.
Okay, so on Monday there's an event. It's the Legacy of Leadership Golf Classic. That's Monday, October the 11th at Bay Oaks Country Club. And you can go to birdease.com, so birdease.com/2021 LLGC, and that stands for Legacy of Leadership Golf Classic. If you're watching on Facebook, I did put that in the comments, and I pinned it. So if you go click that, you can go and sign up for that as well. So are you a golfer?
I'm not. I've learned a lot putting golf tournaments on. I had no idea what a mulligan was whenever I started, but it's basically a do-over. Okay. So I've learned a lot about it. We do a shotgun start
What's
at
that mean?
8:30. That just means they all get in their carts and you say,
go.
You're off,
You
know,
go.
and then they go. It's a Florida scramble. So the shotgun starts 8:30 on Monday morning. It's at Bay Oaks. A lot of people never get to golf at Bay Oaks. It's a private club, so people have always said, "Don't change the venue. It's an awesome course."
Yeah.
And then we do a Florida scramble, which means you can have some lousy people on your team who just want to have fun and support the charity. You don't have to be an expert golfer to get in here, because on every stroke on each hole, that team's going to play from the best lie. Whoever of the 4 people on that team shot the best one, that's where everybody plays from. So that it makes it kind of makes it great for everybody and can have fun, you know.
So you just need one really good
one
person.
really good player and you're good.
Yeah.
You can compete.
The Florida Scramble, I was like, I think I had that at Denny's when it was not too long ago.
Yeah, it probably did. Yeah.
Florida Scramble. I wonder how bad is Florida at golf that they had to come up with their own rules?
I don't know. It's a great idea.
It really is a good idea.
Yeah. So we've had kids, young teenagers golfing with their family, and we want everybody to come out and just have a good time. We've got vendors on a lot of different holes giving away ice cream, hot dogs, different things to the golfers, and we've got several games. Like I do a betting hole with the golfers, just bet them whatever amount up to $20 that they can even get on the green with their first shot, and people win, but the charity usually wins a little bit more, but it's still fair and great for that. We have a $5,000 putting contest. We've got a $25,000 hole-in-one contest.
Awesome.
We actually have 4 hole-in-one contests. One of them is $25,000. The others are clubs or a shopping spree or computer equipment. I can't remember all of the stuff, but it's a blast. And then we do a helicopter ball drop. So you can buy, and this is what I want you to do, is go online and buy your helicopter ball drop tickets. Anybody can afford one of these. It's $10 a chance. You can buy as many as you want, and you get a numbered ball that's going to fall from a helicopter down on a green with a hole, and the first ball in gets a trip to either Disney World for 4 at the Hyatt Regency Disney, and $1,100 for spending money, or you can go to a villa for 8 in California. I can't remember. I think it's Los Angeles, but I can't swear to that. San Diego, San Diego, one of the top resorts and spas, and it's a luxury villa for 8. Or you can opt to have $2,500 cash.
That's
as your
awesome.
prize. So somebody I know always wins because I'm always selling tickets and stuff. But and we don't sell more. We don't usually sell more than 1,000 tickets. So it's a really good odds. Not like when you buy odds at that truck, on 4th of July, and they've sold like 20,000 of those tickets. So.
So you buy, so you say, hey, I want numbers like 10 through 20 or something like that, and then they drop whoever buys them out of a helicopter, and the first one to go into the hole is
the winner. That's the way it goes.
Okay.
And we announce it that day at lunch. You can also get lunch if you're gonna come to lunch we need to know though, because Longhorn Steakhouse cooks our food. They donate everything to us. Jay Biella and Webster Longhorn has been supporting us all of our events for 7 years now, and he's making that awesome Parmesan chicken that I love and mashed potatoes. One of my volunteers said those are plate licking potatoes.
Yeah.
and a green vegetable, and We have dessert. I mean, it's you can just come for the lunch and the live auction and enjoy yourself. That's only $20. So go online and get your ticket, and then join us for the fun stuff. Even if you're not a golfer, you can come out and support the agency.
Jay's awesome, and Longhorn's great.
He's amazing.
We had the opportunity to interview him, and then go back and get a little bit of the stakes. It's like, well, we need someone to to film some of the steaks, so that way we can say, and then it's like, okay, well, we need someone to eat the steaks, maybe for some film. We may not use it, but it's delicious.
Yeah, I saw you in that commercial, Gardy.
So yeah, it's good stuff.
It is. He does a great job. And I went in when he first opened, and I said, hey, do you have any charities that you support? And he was like, man, I just opened. Give me a year. And then he always jokes, man, Sharon was back right on the calendar at the same time of evening and in a year. And so he adopted us, and that's amazing. I can't tell you what a blessing that is, because the main cost to charities for any event is our food. And that allows, he's probably donated close to $150,000-$200,000 in food over these years. It's just been a miracle for us. So
earlier you said that you've put on a ton of golf tournaments. Have they been the Legacy of Leadership golf tournament?
Yes.
And so last year, were y'all able to have it?
We did not. We could not have any events in 2020. Either we thought it wasn't safe, or the venue wasn't allowing it. And we are going to have our luncheon outside. By the way, the luncheon's a little bit late. Golfers get done golfing at about 1:30, and so the meal will be around 2 for planning for people. But we do the helicopter ball drop when they come in, a little reception. We do have hors d'oeuvres, so you're not starving to death until 2:00. But we do an honoree each year. One year it was Tim Miller. He's been one of our clients for years, and he's taken his tragedy and many tragedies in his life. He's had tremendous list of tragedies in his life, and turned that and they prepared him. There aren't many people who could do what he does all the time. I've done it on a couple of occasions when children have disappeared in this area, and it is overwhelming. It's so overwhelming to try to support people through that and look for people, especially when he lost his own daughter that way. And so he's taken his tragedy and allowed God to use him in ways that other people just would never be equipped to use. And that's how people, turn their tragedy to triumph and let God use them for good.
Wow. There's a lot going on. So after the golf tournament, is there any other events that y'all have planned, or y'all are going to look at having?
We do a gala every year in the spring, and we do the golf tournament in the fall. And so those are our 2 major events. And then we may put on some trainings and that kind of thing. If you want to be on our list for training announcements, like you would like to know when that Building Better Relationships class comes up, just email iai@innovativealternatives.org and say, please place my email on the constant contact list, and you'll get announcements of our events and our trainings and everything we put out. We also do certification courses, so if people want to become a mediator, they can take a certification course in 40-hour basic mediation, in family reconciliation intervention, divorce and custody, elder care, workplace mediation. We have a workplace mediation training coming up in January. And we have a family reconciliation coming up next month, actually, I believe. I'm training it, so I think that's when it is. And so if you're already a mediator, but you took family mediation thinking you're going to help families stay together, and turned out in Texas that means divorce only in the statute, and you really want to do something something to help people stay together, then you can take that as a standalone course apart from the divorce and custody piece of it.
Okay. Is there anything else that you'd like to share that we haven't talked about yet?
Oh, Lord. I think we've covered
talked about a lot.
A lot. Yeah, you do a great job, Gardy.
Thank you.
No. I do want to share that this year we don't have a single individual as our honoree for Legacy of Leadership, we are honoring veterans. And we've even got a level where if you want to sponsor, let's say you're not a golfer, but you're a business owner and you want to sponsor for a team of veterans to play, we've got a reduced fee for that you can purchase those for. It's a Patriot sponsorship.
Awesome.
And we've got a lot of businesses doing that. So if you're a veteran golfer, I have some slots open. I have about 10 slots open. So for sponsors that have made those happen, we're going to have a great testimonial from a veteran who's gotten services from IA, and the event benefits our victim assistance program, which we've had for 28 years to give free counseling to crime victims, and the Santa Fe Resiliency Center. So you can designate your funds if you want to make a big donation to either one of those causes, and we serve down to 4-year-old abuse victims, sexual, physical abuse victims that have gone through way too much for their age. So, so people can help.
So if somebody wants to learn more, maybe check out your website. How can they do that?
It's the URL is innovativealternatives.org.
Okay, so go to innovativealternatives.org. You can learn more info, get involved, and find out how you can support. But the next way that you can support, and the biggest way, is by supporting the golf tournament. And you can go sign up if you want to play that. It's birdease.com/2021LLGC. The LL stands for Legacy of Leadership Golf Classic. So go do that.
Also, what might be a little bit easier is to go to innovativealternatives.org and just scroll down till you see the link to the tournament on there. And that way, if you're driving and you can't remember that birdie stuff, it'll be easier to find that way. But yeah, you can make a straight donation if you want to. You don't even have to want to have anything to do with the event or the golf tournament or whatever. Just make a straight donation either through our main website or through the event website.
Thank you so much for joining today, Sharon.
Thank you for having me again. I appreciate it.
This is KHEA Radio, 99.5 FM.